Welcome to Flowcast, the podcast of the project Flow. Flow is a river story revealed in movement and sound. Past, present, and future flow together as artists transform research and satellite images into music. The river story reimagined in sound. In today's episode, we're going to meet Jeff Düngfelder. During our conversation, I've asked him to tell us about himself.
When I lived in LA and had a room full of stuff, I just played around and didn't know what I was doing. And then when I moved to New York, was out of work for a little while and got serious about it. And then it just sort of took off from there. So the way it ended up taking off is that I had a website that had photography, video, graphic design on it. I put music up on there. And a record company contacted me and said, "Oh, I really like that song. Do you have more?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And I didn't have any more. A week later, I get back to him. He goes, "Oh, that's really good. Do you have some more? I want to hear some more." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure. I just have to polish it off, right?" I had nothing. He said, "We'd really like to put an album out with you. Do you have enough material?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure." So my first album came out, and it's just been all uphill since then. Just going great.
That's nice, and we've got a teachable moment there. And so you would consider yourself a musician?
I'm sort of a multimedia type person. My primary focus is the music, but also art. And in terms of art, it's design work. Like I do album cover designs for other artists, poster designs. I also do a lot of personal photography. I make short films. I have a ton of work out there that's in the visual arts, but also lots of times they inform each other. Like, for instance, I'll make a film that's a silent film and I'll make music to go with it. And I have a couple albums out called Music for Films that are soundtracks of little short films that I've made. Or sometimes I'll make the music and then make visuals to go with it. So it's a whole ball of wax. The video, the photography, the design, and the music are really tightly woven together. And whatever one aspect I'm working on, I think about the other. So on this project, you didn't ask for an album cover, but I had to do it. Just because it had to do a lot with what I was trying to achieve with the music after doing the research.
Jeff chose to work on the segment number 7 of the River Lech. While the first part of the river has been mostly pastoral, further down its course the water is also used for heavy industry. On our path from the source towards the Danube, this is the first time we meet a factory. It's noon, the factory siren and the church bells are beckoning workers home for lunch. Tell me, Jeff, for this project we gave you a field recording that's been taken on the segment of the river you've been working on, images, context, and a time-lapse video made with satellite images. You took all this and you got back to us with a musical composition. How did you do that?
Everything about this project totally fascinated me. It wasn't just about making music out of a clip. For me, it went way beyond that. So I was very excited. So I'll go ahead and do a lot of research in this particular case about the river in that specific area and the history of that area. And that sort of sets my mind thinking as to how I might want to approach this. So the final result that you got was the last of many things that I tried out that failed. I did not have an idea what I was going to do, but when I work pretty much on instinct or on chance. I'm just trying things at random and throwing things together. I don't really ever have an idea and say, this is what I want to do. Everything I do visually and with sound is an experiment, and it depends highly on chance. So I tried a bunch of things, and they were all failed or were terrible or they didn't resonate with me. So I just threw everything away and thought more about it. And what really attracted me, the idea about the river, I started thinking about the river's flowing. It's starting in one place, going to another. It's constantly changing. And how did it change over the years through the history of the river and that area? And how did the river changing impact the people, and how did the people with industry impact that? And what I came across with that was a concept where, for me, like time is not just one moment, like right now when we're talking. If I'm at that river, there's a lot of stuff that is still there in the air on some level from the past and from the present and from the future with all the changes. So there's like a memory there. And a lot of my music that I do, I call them memory recordings because it's always relating to something to do with memory. And I thought it's incredible that the water in this area has this historical memory of what's happened and what's happening and what's going to happen. And it's sort of like happening, it's all at the same time. A lot of scientific studies show, time is not just now or the past wasn't real. It's all on a different layer at the same moment. So that's how I came up with the idea of having it be almost like ghostly or seance-y or something, of having contact of all these different things that are merging together at once. That all these voices from what happened in that area, what happened. And it just happens that I'm really fascinated a lot with forest bathing, the Japanese term, but being out in nature and having the nature around you change you and affect you. And I thought the river does that same type of thing, because over the last few years, it just seems to me everything's relating and informing each other all the time. It's a system that's so intertwined that the river and the rocks and the sand and the trees and mountains, everybody's communicating, so everybody knows what went on. So it just seemed to me like there's this big wealth of information that's there on some level. And so in my recording, I tried to bring that out.
See, there's an interesting take on nature and time, which takes me to my next question. One of the core principles of this project is the ethical questions around the renaturalization projects, all of the activities that are done on a river for the river to make it more natural. So the scientists obviously ask themselves, what is natural, and is natural opposed to human? And if we want to restore the natural habitat of a river, does it mean we're taking it forward or backwards in time? And if so, how far should we go?
You can only go back so far. Whatever's happened has happened. But I think there's a responsibility factor, which in Europe, I think it's more greatly recognized as humans to have responsibility for what we do with the planet. And one other thing I want to say about this project is I think most people would think of the river as flowing as to where it's going and what's upstream. But since you broke it up into sections, my focus was on that what section, and it does impact what happens down the road. But I think there's so much wealth of beauty and information in that one section to draw from. I don't see a problem having a factory and people have to work and make a living. They're not going in there and gutting it out and making everything cement.
Yeah.
They're keeping the natural beauty. So I think as long as that focus is equally divided, doing restoration like that's been done and is planned is great. Just keeping in mind people have certain needs.
That was very interesting. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jeff. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And now let's listen to his composition called A Sense of Place.